When dealing with narcissists, working on yourself can be very hard or might feel impossible. Sadly, a narcissist will drain your energy and your self-worth could be negatively affected. This is because a narcissist lives from the energy of their environment. They need supply from their environment in order to feel control, boost their ego, get attention and/or appreciation. My view underlying my website and YouTube channel is to be able to shift your attention from the narcissist to yourself, and this video fits in the phase of working on self-worth and your energy. I will investigate self-worth, appreciation and ego. Then I will share some tips that help me on how to work on self-worth. The most important reason for this video about self-worth is that I think it's beautiful to see when someone has positive energy, feels like he or she is enough and is able to accept themselves. I believe you're worth it. I hope this video can be helpful to you. Self-worth has a big influence on your energy, your thoughts, emotions and feelings. Self-worth or self-value is about how you sense your own value or worth as a person. Do you feel you are a good person that deserves to be treated with respect? Do you know deep inside you are of value and that you are enough? When your self-worth is mostly positive, it gives you a nice, highly vibrating energy that will naturally shine on everything and everyone in your environment. Energy attracts energy. You will feel connected with yourself and give love and kindness to yourself, and through that to others as well. Now, a narcissist sadly pushes your energy and self-worth in the wrong direction. By manipulating, they emphasize negative thoughts, create dependency, and create an environment in which you will have increasing self-doubts and less self-worth. Some people are under the influence of a narcissist. These so-called flying monkeys might think they have increased self-worth because of the narcissist or have their ego boosted by compliments and flattering. The problem is that this bubble would burst if the narcissist decides to move on and stops ego boosting or just stops being friendly. This dynamic is based on ego. You don't want your self-worth to be dependent on a narcissist. You actually don't want your self-worth to be dependent on others at all. Self-worth needs to follow from internal sources, from within. You might realize this already, and it makes sense rationally, but think about if you also really feel this within. If self-worth is dependent on external things, it is not self-worth. It would be ego in some form. Self-worth has a large impact on your life and how you experience your life. You can hide a lot, but hiding your energy is difficult. People all have their own energy level, and I think everyone experiences and feels this, whether it is conscious or unconscious. I would like to say to you, you are here and you are enough. More than that isn't necessary. It's simple, but mostly not that easy, however, and there can be many reasons why. When you're healing from narcissistic abuse, you will probably have slower or less vibrating energy, so it would be great if you are able to push yourself back in the right direction. I will go into some tips later in this video. Connected with self-esteem is getting appreciation from others. Getting appreciation is something that can feed self-worth. It can be lovely to receive appreciation, but it's also a risk. Appreciation is nice and it gives a nice feeling of confirmation. It is good to be able to enjoy this, but it is also good to be able to let it go again. The other side of appreciation is thus the risk that you get attached to it, and consequently, getting appreciation could become a need. Then you will look for appreciation, and depending on whether you get this appreciation, you will feel good or bad. Looking for appreciation becomes a problem when it's a need. You actually give a piece of yourself to someone else whose appreciation you need. Needing appreciation means that the opinion of the other has become more important than your own opinion. If we look at self-worth, we can imagine 3 general situations. The first is, everyone has more value than me. The second is, I am worth as much as everyone else, and everyone else is worth as much as I am. And the third is, I have more value than the rest. This can be imagined as an old-fashioned swing, with I on one seat and others on the other seat. If there is mostly a balance between your value and the value of others, both sides float alternately in the air and the swing works as it should. If there is no equality or balance, one of the seats is constantly on the ground because much more weight is given to others or to yourself. The swing will not work. The situation I have more value than the rest can be recognized in narcissistic behavior. This side of the swing is an exaggerated self-acceptance in the form of ego inflation. Looking deeper into ego and self-esteem suggests perhaps a narcissist sees and mistakes ego as self-worth. The ego is boosted because others depend on him or her, and the ego becomes happy with appreciation, status, and beautiful things. This will be dependent and thus vulnerable. The truth can be recognized in the energy of a narcissist. It feels disturbed, but the wall is powerful, and there might be nothing behind the wall. If you recognize someone you love as a narcissist, can you do something about it? How do you deal with this? Can you get through this wall, or does the attempt actually only hurt yourself? My experience is that a narcissist drains your energy and pushes you into the world of ego and negative thought patterns and emotions. For your own energy, going no contact and accepting someone as a narcissist seems the best option. Now, I would like to give some tips that worked for me on how to work on your self-worth. Most tips are based on the philosophy of Buddhism and mindfulness. The first tip is to stop comparing to others. If you base self-worth upon a comparison with others, you will have a lot of challenges. You can always find someone who is achieving more, who is smarter, richer, better looking, or more confident. It's not healthy to base your self-worth upon others. It's about your inherent worth as a person and not about what you do or achieve. What you do is not who you are. You are valuable for who you are. Now the second thing is to ask yourself whether your self-worth and love to yourself is conditional or unconditional. If it depends upon being above average, it would be conditional. Does it depend on what others think about you or if they accept you? Does it depend on the love and compliments of your partner? If it does, then it's conditional. Your self-worth will follow from these outside reasons, which is unhealthy. It would be dependent on things outside you, which you can't even control. Know and feel your own love and respect is unconditional. The third tip is to try to stop the inner dialogue and live in the here and now. When you have or had a narcissist in your life, you can have increased self-doubts, feelings of shame, and negative thoughts and emotions. You might be disconnected from yourself and forget who you are. You could have negative thoughts about your own existence and feel like it's too much. If you think, I cannot live with myself, think about what this thought is. It means there is an I and a self, which seem not to be able to live with each other. Which one of them is real? Suffering exists from identification with your unhappy and fearful self. But can you actually do something else than just being? Your true nature is the ever-present I am. It's just consciousness. You have this true state, which means the truth is within you. You might just not feel it because of all the noise your mind makes. A vicious circle could be built up between your thinking and certain emotions. They will feed each other. A negative thought pattern would result in a low vibrating emotion, and this vibrational frequency then feeds the negative thought pattern. It can even become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Eckhart Tolle says love, joy, and peace are deep states of being and cannot flourish until you have freed yourself from mind dominance. The present moment is all you ever have. The fourth tip is to count your blessings and practice gratitude. What you focus on in life will emphasize, and what you don't will decay eventually. Unhappiness and happiness are dependent on each other, which means they are one. This is because they can't exist without the other, and you will always go through both happiness and unhappiness. You don't have to ignore suffering, but you can try to count your blessings as well. You can do this, for example, by thinking of what you are proud of that day or what you have learned. It could even be a small positive intention you have for the future. Start asking yourself positive questions and you will get positive answers. When you ask yourself better questions, you will get better answers. Practicing gratitude will leave less room for fear. The fifth tip is to observe the tone you use with yourself. You can challenge what your inner voice says and also how it is said. Try to commit to being more positive, or at least respectful when talking to yourself. You deserve your own compassion and kindness. You can take responsibility for what happens to you, but you do not need to be judgmental about it to yourself. You could, for example, do the following in meditation or during mindful breathing. Acknowledge and pay attention to your suffering, then respond to your suffering with kindness and care. The sixth tip is to review your expectations of yourself. Interestingly, people often have very different expectations for others than for themselves. Other people could, for example, be sweet, nice, and kind, but this might not apply to yourself. Where does this difference in expectations come from? At a certain moment, I realized that I felt I should not have any fears or make mistakes. When it comes to others, I didn't mind and I felt empathy, but with myself I did mind. This is a strange thing, right? I was blocking my development by negative thoughts, not being kind to myself, and having high expectations. When I realized the nonsense of this, and when I felt this simple insight, a process of change in self-acceptance started. I started being more kind to myself. The last tip is to set principles and values for yourself and act on them. Think about what are important values to you, such as kindness, compassion, empathy, respect for others, and how you treat others. Set principles, such as honesty or clarity, and set boundaries to be able to live this way. You don't need to please other people. Your value and principles come from inside, from an internal measure you have set for yourself. This will help your confidence and self-worth. Now, I hope these tips are helpful to you. Working on self-worth is about flipping the process of having slower energy to more vibrating energy. Don't put pressure on yourself when working on this. Take your time and focus on small steps. Any small step in the right direction will help, and eventually, all the small steps will have a large impact. Trust the process of healing and working on self-worth. It's hard work, but it's worth all the effort, because you are worth it. Hopefully, you agree with me on that. Thank you for listening. I wish you kindness and strength.